Hopefully we will have enabling legislation by then. Let's swear in staff. Sarah, are you the only person I need to swear at today? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Sarah Medley.
All right. Let's introduce our commissioners who are present. Aaron Moriarty is here. Are you here?
Present.
Liesl Kotheimer is here. Are you here?
Present.
Sean Conyers is present. Are you, please say something?
Yes, sir. I'm present.
And Commissioner Hissam is here. He's muted, but he's here. And he waved. And I am our vice chair and acting chair, Jack Decker. The first thing on the agenda now is to approve the minutes for Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Have we a motion?
So moved.
Have we a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Conyers, second by Moriarty. Discussion. Let's go through the roll. Moriarty.
Yes.
Yes. Kotheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. They are approved. Do we have a public forum today? No public forum. Do we have a motion to enter the staff approvals into the record? Hello.
I think Sean moved on a second.
Oh, I didn't hear Sean. All right. Any discussion? Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kotheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes, they are so entered. Applications for certificates. Take it away, please, Sarah.
Okay, so we're starting at agenda item 3. This is 610 Neal Avenue, the church at the corner of Neal and Goodale. So there's two parts to this. Part of it is windows and part of it is an ADA ramp. At this point, the windows are coming to you for approval to repair them and possibly to replace the glazing in the basement windows with frosted glass. I have talked to the applicant. I know that they're having some significant concerns about the viability of repairing the windows, but that would come back for further review. So we're only talking about the possibility of repair today. And then at the rear northeast corner of the building, they'd like to demolish the existing concrete stairs and add an ADA ramp that wraps around that northeast corner per the submitted drawings. So commissioners had some questions about who would be doing the stained glass repair. That would be Window Creations in Fort Jennings, Ohio. Commissioners also requested some photos of the windows. The applicant did submit some additional photos, but they are not specifically of the windows to be repaired. They're just of the windows in general. So my recommendation is that if anything beyond in-kind repair is happening, they should be submitting photos of each window. The Victorian Village Commission does not usually recommend frosted glazing. In this case, it might be considered appropriate since this is not a residence and it's at a basement level, but I think that's up for discussion. And then demolishing the rear steps doesn't seem to destroy any character defining features, so that seemed okay to me. I would recommend approving the application as submitted. And this is just based on the guidelines in Victoria Village for windows and doors and the standards for alteration that speak to repairing before replacing historic features and not getting rid of character defining features of a building.
Is there frosted glass on the basement windows now?
I don't think so. There are some existing conditions photos that they submitted, so we can take a look.
Yeah, they're small. I can see now.
Yeah.
Discussion. The applicant is not here, correct? The staff recommended, so discussion.
I am here.
Yeah, who are you? I
I
can't.
am Dennis Venetiano. Can you hear me?
Very good. Do you have anything to add to what staff has presented?
Can you swear in first?
Oh, yeah. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
Staff discussion. Staff discussion. Commissioner discussion. Wheel turned off.
I don't have any problems with the proposed alterations.
Including the glazed windows.
Yeah.
Why the glazing on the, why the frosted windows? Why the frosted windows, sir? Dennis, why the frosted?
Why?
Yeah.
Those are original windows there. And like we said, we were going to try to repair as much as possible to keep the original look. But that's what's currently in the building. It's been there for a long time. Many of them are, not in great conditions. Others are in decent conditions. So we're just going to try to do the best to keep wherever we have the frosted glass, the stained glass, to replicate that and just make sure that it looks the way it is right now.
Louis, do you have a photo that you could show of the exterior so we can see what the basement windows look like now?
I think we're confused because the applicant's talking about the frosted glass that's in some of the panes for the stained glass windows. Is that correct?
Well, some windows are stained, the ones on the first floor mainly, and a bit of the second floor as well. There's not an exact continuity. Again, this is an older building, so.
Okay, now now I've got it right. What my concern was where it says basement level, repair any broken glass with frosted glass. And it appears to be that there is clear glass there now. Am I right about that?
Let me try to get some pictures.
I think the only photo we have of that is the exterior ones, yeah.
I'm trying to get some decent looking pictures of the exterior.
The photo number 2 appears to show clear glass. Photo number 3, it shows clear glass at least around the corner of the building. And then the others aren't large enough for me to see what's there.
If I could answer that, the windows, the original windows on the bottom, they're like a pebbled glass. The ones that have been broken were replaced with clear glass.
Yeah, you need to be sworn in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
State your name, please.
I apologize. It's Cindy Parker.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
So the intent of the application is to replace any broken glass with clear glass. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And yes. And to fix any of the stained glass that we're able to do.
Exactly. So assuming the rest of the commissioners are okay with that, do we have a motion to approve as submitted, clarifying that the stained glass windows shall be repaired like for like, and that as the Ms. Parker has represented, the basement windows, any broken glass will be replaced with clear glass? Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Anybody have anything to say about this? All right. Let's vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers. Is that yes? I saw a nod of the head. You have to say yes. We can't hear you, but that's a yes. Hissom.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes 5-0. The chair rules Mr. Conyers did shake his head yes and tried to say yes, but we can't hear him. All right. Thank you very much. Good luck. It's good to see this building coming back.
Appreciate it.
Next item. By the way, I think several of us have a hard stop at 6, so we need to move this along. Go.
Next is 139 Hunter Avenue. The applicant is proposing to remove aluminum siding from sides of the rear projection. They'd like to install a hardy siding. Originally, they were proposing vinyl, but they are open to hardy. This application was continued from the October hearing. The applicant was absent at that hearing. Staff did find that this shows up on Sanborn maps from as early as 1901, so it doesn't seem to be an addition. It seems to have been an original footprint portion of the building, but the applicant did take a look under the existing siding, didn't seem to find any historic siding to be extant, so staff would recommend approving the application with the condition that the applicant clarify that trim and corner boards will be added. And I did speak to the applicant. He said that they will be adding the trim and corner boards. When we spoke, I believe he said it was to be boral. I just think that we should make sure that it's a compatible siding or a compatible trim with the siding. So that'd be something to clarify. And this is based on the standards for alteration that speak to repairing rather than replacing if there was something historic there. But otherwise, just not destroying distinguishing characteristics, of which I don't think there are any here. So.
Very good. Is our applicant here?
Yes.
Where are you, sir or ma'am?
Peter,
I'm sorry?
this is Peter Batchelder.
Mr. Batchelder, do you swear affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very well. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Discussion.
I think this looks great. Why don't we make a motion?
Well, the only thing I think we need to figure out is how are we going to handle the trim and corner boards? Should we have a subcommittee look at them or simply say that that will be determined by staff?
I think it'd be determined by staff. It's pretty straightforward.
Very good. What are we thinking? 1 by corner boards? 1 by 4?
Yeah, so 1x4 made out of boral, so it's not subject to rot or those type of things.
Yep.
Is the staff question was, is the siding, is it boral or hardy brand siding?
The siding would be hardy.
Those are two different materials.
Correct.
So why would the siding boral?
I just wasn't aware that they had a product that would work.
They do.
And it generally is better than hardy.
They do. I did an addition in boral and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Would you mind if our motion allowed you to do it with boral or hardy?
I don't mind that. I could check on costs. That always is the thing with our customer. So I'm more than happy to check on that. Yes.
Well, have we a motion?
A motion as submitted with the caveat that the staff will review trim details, and the client has the option of hardy plank or boral. He's going to look into it due to costs.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion Hissom, second Moriarty. Further discussion? Moriarty,
Can I ask a question really quick? Just
Yes,
to-
let's have a discussion. Yes.
Just quickly, do you want the trim material to match the siding as the ultimate goal? Does it not matter?
Architects, what do you think of that?
As Liesel said, it's kind of weird to use two different materials, and it would probably be better if they used the same material, one or the other.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Siding and trim boards shall all be by the same manufacturer, same material.
Who made the motion? Jeff, did you?
Yes,
Do you
I
accept
did.
that amendment to your motion?
I do.
Who seconded it? Aaron, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Hisson,
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Hope this will look a lot better when you get it recited. Thank you. Next.
Item 5, 27 North High Street. It's a request for action signage. The applicant would like to install a 39-inch by 36-inch double-faced blade sign to be illuminated by 2 gooseneck lights installed on either side of the sign, installed into the wall. Staff and commissioners have requested updated renderings showing the correct updated graphic and that the sign would be installed in mortar, so it needs to be shifted probably down a little bit, but I have not received that information from the applicant. Otherwise, it does generally appear to meet the Short North design guidelines for size and illumination, though commissioners have noted that the standards for site improvements do tend to speak to a sign being simple, so maybe that would be something to discuss. Staff would recommend approving the application with the conditions that the applicant does submit that updated material to staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate. Updated material being that the rendering shows the actual correct graphic and that the sign will not be installed in the stone, it'll be installed in the mortar. These conditions are based on the Short North design guidelines, which speak to signage not obscuring architectural elements, and the standards for site improvement that say that the sign shall be in character with the adjacent environment, not an excessive size or inappropriately placed.
Is our applicant here? Thank you.
I don't see him, but maybe.
I'm here.
Where
You're here. Who is our applicant?
I'm Vince.
Okay, my screen has been obscured, so
I see him.
Vincenzo, is that you?
Vince Vincenzo.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Very well. Do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Discussion.
Okay, so the first time we reviewed this, there were, the sign itself was a little bit more detailed, and so I'm happy to see that it's been simplified since then. However, I still feel like there's a lot of activity going on the sign, and you might consider simplifying it even further so that it has a higher visibility from further away.
Does that make it inappropriate? Or simply inefficient? I think it makes it more pedestrian oriented.
Yeah, I think the first initial one was inappropriate because the size of the font was too small even for pedestrian, and that now it's probably fine.
We have a 6th commissioner who stuck his head into the picture. Never mind. Okay. Any other issues that any of the commissioners have with this application? Do we have a motion to approve with the conditions that staff recommended?
So moved.
Hisson moves.
Second.
Okay, who was that? Liesel. Liesel, further discussion. Ready to vote? Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Hisson,
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay, next is 3133 West Second. This is a request for auction for exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to replace the existing wooden clapboard siding with a James Hardy siding, also clapboard in Booth Bay Blue. The new siding would have a 4-inch exposure. So this is the site that staff did visit with Commissioner Decker on October 5th to view the existing conditions and obtain some additional photos. At the site visit, it didn't appear visually that the siding was beyond repair. The applicant did submit 2 estimates that say that repair is possible, though it is clear that it is significantly more expensive than replacement. So I've included in this submission the 2 estimates for repair as well as the original submitted estimate for replacement for consideration. Staff's recommendation here is still to consider repair over replacement. This is based on the standards for alteration that say that distinguishing characteristics shall not be destroyed, distinctive features and examples of craftsmanship shall be treated with sensitivity, and that deteriorated features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. The applicant is here.
All right. Who is our applicant?
Hey, are you guys able to see me? This is Kelsey.
Kelsey Buchanan, is that your name?
That's me.
All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I haven't seen this since you put in your estimates. Could you tell me what the various estimates you have are?
Sure. I would need to look back at the contractor estimate that was available for the commissioners meeting beforehand. I think it was in the $30,000 range. That was just a general contractor, not a restoration quote. And my concerns about that are that we'd have a situation where you'd still have the unmatched boards, which I thought we're going to try and avoid there. I had a restoration company come out. It took a while to get them out to get a quote, so I apologize this wasn't in sooner. It's the Durable Restoration Company. My quote from them, which does not include any exterior painting, is $58,600. And they stated that when I kind of inquired about the cost on that, they said it had more to do with the milling of the original woodwork was contributing to that cost. I'm not a wood miller, so I'm not sure about those details, but that was the quote that I got from them as far as a restoration company coming out to do it. The original quote was $24,000, which would be the Hardy board siding.
I see something here for $36,000. What's that?
That was the general contractor who came out, who was just going to try and get some repairs made, scrape and paint as best as possible. So that was the nature of that quote. Was not guaranteeing me that he would be able to match the original trim appearance.
All right. So, and you said this to side it was 24?
Correct.
All right. Anything else you would like to add to the presentation of staff?
I don't think so. So this quote was actually, this process was started before I purchased the home, and my realtor is here. I don't know if he has anything else he wants to add. This process was actually supposed to be done before I purchased the home, but here we are. Yeah, I think that's about all I have. Just that's a pretty significant cost difference, and I very much understand wanting to preserve the historical nature of the home, but
Who is the realtor, and do you have anything to add?
Can you guys hear me? I'm the realtor.
Mr. Fisk, do you swear or affirm that anything you say today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, who's responsible for making these repairs? The Ms. Buchanan or the seller?
So the seller has allotted for a certain amount of funds to be contributed towards the repair of the siding.
And so the risk of this is assumed, of any increase is assumed by the buyer, right?
Any increases, yes.
Okay. Anything else you need to add?
I would like to say that many contractors have denied even trying to work on the siding. I've spent countless hours trying to have people quote the work and really try to figure out a solution. that would look good and fit the neighborhood. But it has been like impossible. I mean, me and Kelsey and the other owner to the other side of the duplex have tried many, many times, and it's been impossible. So it's definitely been a challenge.
Is this duplex owned then by two owners?
Yeah, there's two separate owners.
Are both owners going to put siding on this?
Yes. And the quotes are for the whole unit itself, so both sides.
All right. Discussion.
Do you have an HOA condo association set up for this duplex?
We do, yes.
Okay. Has there been anything outlined within that ordinances about what is included? Or is there a bank account associated with it?
No, any repairs exteriorly are to be split between the two owners.
Okay.
All right. Having been through this myself many, many years ago in a house that was probably in worse shape, $68,000 is off the charts as an estimate, in my humble opinion. And 36 is probably a lot closer to the actual cost. I do not understand what the patch, there's some patch board in there that the new lumber, it's obvious from the pictures where that is. It does not match the original siding. But I do not understand why Fifth Avenue Lumber could not mill you a small amount of this lap siding that's on here. I mean, millwork doesn't cost that much money when you're working with pine or whatever this is made of. It seems to me that you could easily go down the street and have siding milled to patch the holes that you've got with relatively little expense. And then it's a matter of caulking and painting and fixing your corner trim, which you've got to do anyway. There's all kinds of trim issues on this house, but that's my 2 cents. What do you think, fellow commissioners?
So I would agree. Just given the amount of area that is in need of being repaired from the images, it doesn't look that significant. It may be just a condition of that the homeowner is just not getting the right participation from the right contractors from that standpoint. And I can understand, given the times that we're under, this being a burden of getting the right subcontractor or contractor involved. But I think that the issues here are we may have the wrong contractor to solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't look like rocket science carpentry to you, does it, Mr. Conyers?
No, sir.
It seems to me like it just be done in a step-by-step fashion. Get the right person to do the siding, get the right quote for the painting, and do it all separately, rather than getting a restoration person to quote all of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree that you're probably overkilling this by getting a restoration specialist. I think the city, Sarah can give you good advice about how to trim out your openings. And a decent carpenter who's familiar with working with siding could repair, your siding issues. Any other commissioners have opinions?
I agree with what everyone has said, and especially what Sean said.
Okay, so what do you want us to do? I'm sorry, our owner has gone away.
No, she's
Oh, Kelsey, there you are, Miss Buchanan. I mean, we could vote on this, but I think that it would fail.
Frustrated not knowing what to do and having, I mean, what you're saying sounds extremely reasonable. I'm just not sure why that's not the information I've gotten from contractors to come out. And I'm a full-time med school, and it's been a little tough. So, you know, if there is someone that you guys could recommend who could just kind of help advise me through the process, I would really appreciate that, because I'm not sure how to proceed from here.
What do you think, Sarah?
Well, staff can't give recommendations of contractors. Generally, we would tell applicants to take a look at meeting minutes or talk to neighbors about people that they've used, but I don't know if the commissioners have additional guidance they can give. I think everything y'all have mentioned about taking it step by step makes a lot of sense, and I'm happy to talk to you, Kelsey, to answer questions you might have about what those steps are, but I can't necessarily speak to who you should use as a contractor.
I haven't used an exterior carpenter for a long time, and my handyman recently passed away. But my neighbor, Marnie Morrison, who lives at the corner of 3rd and Neal, does lots of exterior carpentry and has a house that's done in this kind of siding. You might contact her. It's Margaret Morrison on Neal Avenue, and she might put you in touch with whom she uses. That's one, and I'm sure that you can look around the neighborhood and see other people who have repaired or other houses that have been repaired, and maybe you can find some contractors that way. Do we want to continue this, vote on it?
I just want to repeat what Sean said. You can be methodical step by step, but this isn't going to be an easy process, just because where we're at in the world right now, and people in those trades, there are very few of them, and they're backed up on work. So I just, even if you have those contractors and you find one, they might say, I can't fit you in until this date. I mean, it's crazy out there. Just some wisdom, Kelsey.
I would add that you could also look at the Italian Village meeting minutes or the recordings on YouTube if you're looking for another contractor, because they have similar applications as we do.
Okay. One final question for you guys, if you don't mind. I do have an open area in the side of my house where I have squirrels who have gotten in. Do I need to get approval from you guys to get that repaired? Because it's kind of loud.
You're just looking at putting up any kind of
just some type of temporary
wood patch, plywood or something.
Yeah, I mean, I could even go a bit fancier than plywood. I'm afraid about the winter, and if this isn't handled for like the next 6 months, because who knows what's going to happen.
Do we want to have a motion to continue this and give the applicant temporary permission to patch any openings with plywood or other wood for a period of 6 months?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Thank you.
Moriarty?
Yes.
Codimer?
Yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Hisson?
Yes.
Deckers, yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck with you. I realize you have your hands full trying to be a student and take care of being a home rehab person, but you'll get through it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Next.
297 West First is an application that has been continued. You've seen it before. It's a response to code violation for an applicant that already built a wall. This is the retaining wall that is 2 different sizes. In the back, it's a little higher. In the front, it's a little lower. So from the last hearing, commissioners made some suggestions. The applicant is returning with this L return that they've added that ends at the end of the taller rear wall. So yes, that blue rectangle that's been added. At the last meeting, commissioners had some additional questions that I haven't heard answers to yet. This is the applicant still considering a fence? Is the applicant proposing to modify the front wall at all? Those are still up for discussion. Commissioners and staff requested that they submit a site plan. While it says they have not submitted it, they did send in that drawing that Lewis just had up on the screen. Staff doesn't find these materials to be significantly different than landscaping materials used at surrounding properties, though they are non-traditional. Staff's recommendation is to approve the application with the conditions that the L return portion of the wall is the same width and height as the rear wall, and that the applicant should have a site plan showing the length and width of the wall. If commissioners find the one that was submitted to be appropriate, that's okay. But I do want to get your feedback on that. This is all based on the standards for site improvement. In this case, they speak to compatibility with adjacent contributing properties. And then the Victorian Village guidelines actually speak to removing railroad ties, and that happened here initially. So I think that was a good step.
Is our applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm sorry, where are you? Catherine,
Catherine.
your last name?
Paraskos.
Ms. Prosco, do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give tonight's the truth, whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to staff?
No.
Discussion. Ma'am, are you considering a fence, or do you just want to L this wall around like shown in the Sharpie drawing with the blue?
Sorry, my skills are a little bit subpar. But yeah, we will end up doing a fence, but we plan on just doing it in the spring when the lumber prices go down because of COVID. So since we couldn't get a quote out in time, and it would be probably different material or depending, once we get the finalized quote is when we are going to come back in the springtime.
All right. Any other discussion?
Just out of curiosity, I just, and as a gut check, I just kind of want to know what kind of fence you're considering.
I think we are just going to do a wood fence with either the dog-eared or the capped one.
How high?
This, I think 6 foot is the max that someone said it could go.
Not on this right away, right?
Yeah, and especially when you've got extra height there from the wall. I think the highest you might want to look at 6 feet from the alley.
Okay, that's fine. And that's something that'd be revisited, correct? We'd have to submit it anyway. So once we get that finalized, we can discuss that.
Yeah, I think the 4 feet, if I'm not mistaken, applies to front fences.
Just front. Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve this subject to the conditions staff has mentioned?
So moved.
Do we have a second? That's Hisson. Second?
Second.
Second.
Second Moriarty. She got there first. Your dog and my dog are going to talk to each other eventually. All right. Further discussion. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kutheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hisson.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck. See you in the spring.
Thank you.
Next.
201 203 West Avenue. This is exterior building modifications and new construction. So this is the house that was reviewed conceptually in September and then continued in October, where the applicant is now proposing to rehab parts of the main building as well. They'd like to open an attic window and install a Pella impervia casement window up there, remove the existing non-historic siding and replace it or restore the siding, but that's pending further investigation. This one, the front porch, commissioners gave some feedback last month, and the suggestion was to have a different treatment for that high door. The applicant has changed the layout of the front porch. At the rear porch, the applicant would like to remove an existing column and replace it with a new column. And then the new construction portion of this is to build a 1.5-story 3-car carriage house at the rear along the alley. Commissioners at the business meeting did request a detail or section drawing of the front porch. I didn't get that yet. And then I included some of the minutes. These are combined from the September and October hearings. Speak to the conditions for the porch, and also that the proposed materials of the carriage house at the time were said to not be compatible with the main house because that main house's siding is yet to be determined. And the comments also included that the commissioners were having a hard time seeing a 3-car garage there, as it would be possibly wider than the house. Staff would recommend approving the application with the conditions that that siding condition on the primary dwelling does come back to the commission for further review whenever it's ready, and that the garage could be or should be reduced in size by width to better relate to the primary dwelling. These are based on the standards for alteration. Standard 9 speaks to that contemporary design shall not be discouraged if that design is compatible with the size, scale, colors, and materials of the property, as well as standards for new construction, specifically A, building height, width, mass, proportion, affects the degree of compatibility between old and new, and C, that says height as viewed from the street shall be compatible. And the Victorian Village Guidelines, I was looking at item 8 for new construction that states that accessory structures like garages should be designed to complement the primary structure on the site. And I do think Julie's here.
Julie, do you swear affirm the testimony you'll give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You're muted. You're muted. Unmute yourself. There you go. Do you swear?
I do.
Very well. Did you bring anyone with you?
No, it's just me.
Do you have anything to add?
I do. First of all, the carriage house was actually not on the application for this month. It was just for the porch.
Oh.
So I wasn't even asking. And although we did already kind of agree the size was okay once you saw the porch on the existing house and you saw the neighboring carriage house. So it was my understanding, and I do have a COA on that says really you're just looking for a change in materials at the carriage house, but we're really not supposed to discuss that today. I do have a section, I don't know if you want me to share my screen, but really the only, I wanted to do this because we're going in for the vote on our variances, and I wanted to make sure everyone was okay with the porch before we had the actual city council vote. So that's why I put the porch back on the agenda for today. I do have a section if you want me to share it, or I can just submit it to staff, either. But really just discussion on the front porch is all I'm looking for.
Could we see a good elevation of that, please?
Is that, oh yeah, there.
There we go.
Louis, can you zoom in on that a little bit? There we go. Much better.
That's right. We had a weird wraparound detail, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought I forget who said to do this, but I thought it was a great idea.
Good job, Julie Bullock.
It was not me. It wasn't my idea, but yeah, Jeff, I think. I also want to say that we have looked at a lot of the siding. It seems to be in pretty good condition. So I'm not too concerned about if we uncover something more, we'll let you know. But right now it's looking pretty good. So.
Julie, we had an applicant who didn't know how to get siding repaired. You might want to give her a call.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, I'm happy if you want to give her my email, I can give her some names. Sarah.
If you could do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Allowed to do that? I can always suggest she watch the minutes or listen to the hearing.
You can put her in contact with an applicant, and the applicant can do whatever the applicant sees fit, as long as the city isn't doing the actual recommending.
Yeah, all I'm going to do is refer her to some contractors.
Gotcha.
So I don't need the work, and she doesn't need me. But
yeah. And Sarah, we've done that in the past.
Yeah, yes. I get a lot of emails like that to help people, so it's not a problem.
Will do.
Julie, you're not looking for an actual approval on this. You're just looking for feedback.
If you want to give me approval, that would be great, so you don't have to look at it again. But I just want to make sure, you know, that the variances aren't impacted by someone's objection to the porch.
I'm lost where we're at, because have we actually voted on a certificate for any part of this project yet?
You've made a recommendation on the variances, which was affirmative,
But that's it.
but that is it.
So this is really probably ought to be just sort of a conceptual on the porch. Are we okay with it?
Yes.
Mr. Conyers, what do you think?
Yes, I think I just had some questions at the business meeting about the section. So if there's a possibility of being able to see those details, you know, later on, I think that would be just really helpful. But much
Okay.
From a conceptual viewpoint, you're good with this?
Yes, sir. Completely.
Liesel?
You're muted.
There you are. We can hear you now.
Sorry, yes, I'm okay with it.
Okay with it. And how about you, Aaron?
Yep, I think new porch looks great.
And so am I. So there you have your rare unanimity of thought from your commissioners.
Okay.
So you may go forth with your zoning request with a clean conscience.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for helping us, if you do, with our applicant who's lost. Very
No
well.
problem. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I guess we took care of what she wanted, so we don't have to continue it, right?
She wanted it to be conceptual, then I think you're okay with that.
There we go. Very well. Next.
Okay, so I did want to check in and see, this is 1189 Highland. Do we have an applicant here? I know I was talking to him this morning and he was saying he wouldn't, okay, I see the hand.
B Studio is raising her hand.
Okay, great. Okay, then we can get started with this and then we can pop back to you in a second. I just wanted to double check. This is for 1189 Highland. It is a request for action for new construction and landscaping. The landscaping is a 6-foot wooden privacy fence around the rear yard and a 3-foot wrought iron fence around the front yard. New construction would be a 1-story, 3-car garage next to an existing concrete parking pad per some submitted drawings. There's some specifications, the hardy lap siding, garage doors, Marvin Essential windows, and some gooseneck barn lights. And they would also be proposing to reorient the concrete walkway around the new garage. Staff's analysis of this is that while this was on the original October 2020 agenda, it was continued due to lack of time. So this is technically the first review of this project. As such, staff would feel that it might be better reviewed as a conceptual review, just to give the commissioners an opportunity to provide design feedback. The proposed windows, Marvin Essential, are not on the approved windows list, and they're proposed to have frosted glazing, which is not considered appropriate. And then a question I have is that the applicant should clarify the panel condition of the proposed garage doors. I don't know if that was just something I couldn't tell, or I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page about the number and type. And as a note, I took a look, the alley does have a number of different sizes and types of garage doors. So my recommendation, unless the commissioners are very comfortable with this as proposed, would be to continue the application to provide the commissioners an opportunity to give that initial design feedback and to give the applicant that opportunity to incorporate the feedback into the design. Additionally, staff recommends that the windows should be from the approved list and that they should not have frosted glass. And I included a lot of the standards here for site improvement, which is per fencing, which seems to be fine, and also the standards for new construction that speak to the garage. And the applicant is here.
All right, and applicant, who are you? Where are you?
Brenda Parker.
Brenda Parker, do you swear from the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have anything to add to what staff has said?
No, it's a pretty straightforward project, so there might be a little bit of tweaks, but I'm hoping for approval.
I'm not sure where we're at and whether we can approve this or not. So let's see. Comments?
Can we put drawings, please?
Lewis, do you want me to grab that?
It strikes me that this garage design is pretty darn unobtrusive as things go. Sean, have you looked at these drawings? Do they look complete to you?
Lewis,
Yes,
do
sir.
you want
They
me
do.
to put them
They
up?
are just a lot of the things that we would be looking for when we kind of talk about garages are being covered inside the scope of what's been drawn. There were just a couple questions that I observed, which is one was just kind of the exposed block, the foundation, just being able just to confirm that that's going to be, you know, a split face or some other condition for that. And then I just wanted to have a discussion as a team about the number of that would be the goosenecks that are on the front elevation. But that's everything else looks to be in kind of what we would be looking for.
Ms. Parker, what is your foundation going to be?
Yeah, I didn't call it out on the elevations, but yeah, typically above grade split face.
I had a question about what are the garage doors going to be?
Oh, let me check my product sheet. They're going to be the wood, the overlay carriage house door from CHI.
So they're overhead doors that fold where these little horizontal lines are. And then they've got like overlayment to look like a different kind of door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any issue with that, folks, or will a cut sheet suffices for that?
I think I'm fine with the doors. I think I'm gonna follow Sean's lead, and I think his comments were relevant in that the goosenecks we would just have 3 over each door, one over each door centered. I think that's probably what is more appropriate. Now, if those were different types of fixtures, I could see them bookcasing the doors.
Is there any reason to goof? Go ahead.
I was going to say, so we could either maybe change the light style. There isn't a lot of room above the door, so I just don't know if it's going to feel really tight in there with the gooseneck light above the door without, you know, in the gable that there's a lot of space for those lights. I'd rather change the light style and keep them flanking the doors.
That's fine.
I agree.
Issues with windows. Can we do windows off the approved list?
Oh yeah, I think I must have just messed that up.
And we don't need frosted glass, do we?
I can eliminate that also.
My last question as the landscaping plan is, why is this fence going all the way out to the alley?
That's just the owner's preference. The neighbor's fence already goes out to the alley, I believe, on the, what would be the south side. I'm going to look at the photos real quick.
So is this going to be a double fence?
Yes, I think he's replacing the existing. So this, on the south side, that fence, that privacy fence is existing. it's a dog tooth. Change that to a panel design, but it already goes out to the alley.
Do we have
And so he's matching it on the
a
other
drawing
side.
do we have a drawing of the panel design?
It's on a
Lois, very last
sheet.
page has
There we go.
it's like all
Thank
of them. Yep.
All right.
That's a handsome fence.
Yeah, it looks
It
nice.
is. That might be worth taking all the way out to the alley. Okay. Any other commissioner have any issue with that, or is it just me?
I think it's just you, Jack.
Okay. Be that way. Can we have a motion? Or are we ready to vote on this, or do we need to send it back, deal with this as a conceptual?
I feel pretty good about voting. Just one other clarification. The siding that's being called out, it's definitely smooth. I know that there's a hardy that's being called out. In the cut sheet, it just looked like it was the texture. So I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, no, they have smooth circled.
Okay, perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Who can capture all of this in a motion?
I'll try. So move as submitted with the following clarifications. That the foundation, exposed foundation will be split face blocks. That the light configuration is acceptable, but an alternate light will be submitted to staff for review in lieu of the goosenecks, given the conditions of where the lights are being proposed to be located. And I think, and
we have the Marvin windows, the frosted glass.
Yes, sir. The windows will be modified to offer the approved window list, and the glass will be modified to be clear.
Does that cover it, folks? Do we have a second?
A second.
Further discussion? Moriarty?
Yes.
Hodimer?
Yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Issam?
Yes.
Decker? Yes. There you go. Congratulations. You have a certificate. Have a good day. Good luck. This will be nice. Next.
Next is 34 to 36 West 4th Avenue. It's exterior building alterations and landscaping. The exterior alterations are to replace an existing wood frame window to match an adjacent with a Pella 250 vinyl window. Remove conduit and lights from the side of the building, add new exterior sconce light, switch a window and door location, infill that window with salvaged brick from where that door was. The new window would also be a Pella 250. They'd like to power wash, repair the existing gutters and soffits, paint the trim, remove the rear wooden decks, and add new cedar decks. And for landscaping, that is to just trim some stuff and put in decorative bollards. So while this was originally on the October 2020 agenda, it was continued for time. So without review. So this is the first review of it, and staff feels that perhaps this should be conceptual if the commissioners would like to give some design feedback. The commissioners at the business meeting did request additional information. That was an elevation drawing that included the fencing at the rear landing. The applicant did submit that. The photos that they've submitted do show that the window on the west side of 36 West 4th that's proposed for replacement is significantly damaged. And after reviewing the new elevations that they submitted, while decks are not usually considered appropriate, staff feels that the applicant has illustrated that the proposed designs will act more as a stair landing than as a deck, which seems to be more appropriate than a deck would be. So staff's recommendation is to approve the application with the conditions that if you must power wash, you should use no pressure over 300 to 400 PSI, and that the windows should be from the approved windows list, not the Pella 250. And I understand that they propose that because that's what the other windows are, but staff recommendation is still to use a window from the approved list. This is based on the standards for alteration that say the distinguishing characteristics shall not be destroyed, that speak to deteriorate architectural features being repaired rather than replaced, and the gentlest means possible shall be used to clean surfaces when necessary. The applicant is here, I believe.
Very well. Who is here for the applicant?
This is Jackie Davis with Shift Collective.
Where are you? I don't see your picture. Oh, there you are. Do you swear affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add?
No, we're just seeking approval on this, hoping that the options for the smaller step-like porch fulfilled the needs that was requested at the last one.
All right. Discussion. This is odd because on the existing photos page, I guess on the first page of the application, you're actually looking east from the alley into this yard with your back to the big screen fence that is on the east side of the playground for the former Everett School.
Mm-hmm.
So this opening is at right angles to the street frontage.
What
do you think?
Well, I guess what are we trying to accomplish here?
Ms. Davis, what are we trying to accomplish?
We're trying to add back patio and parking areas for those two units for 34 and 36. So just reconfiguring those, the existing decks that were there, making them more usable, and then patio area, like I said, and parking. If you go to the site plan, it might be.
Yeah, can we see the site plan?
Yeah. There you go. So we're trying to account for 2 spaces for the 36 space, 2 for the 34, and then those number, actually, if you keep going to a few pages back, it shows the smaller, there you go. That option 2 is our smaller porch option. So to plan west there, you see patio for the 34 unit, and then the 36 unit there on the right with the smaller porch.
So the real key is to get rid of the concrete and have a paver patio back there that can be used, and then to kind of get your loading docks out of the way, right?
Correct. Yep. Trying to dress up that area back there for those 2 units.
Oh, okay, so that
provide landscaping.
That makes sense now.
And I think especially option 2 avoids a lot of the deck-like or loading dock-like appearance of some of the other iterations or that's there now. What's the difference between the Pella windows and something off the approved list, Sarah?
The windows are just not items that have been pre-approved by the commissioners. They're not ones reviewed personally. Generally, we just direct people to use windows from the approved list. I could do some research and see. They're just not something that is generally approved.
Did I miss something, or did you say that one of you say that the rest of the building has Pellas on it?
I believe that's what I've heard from the applicant in the past.
Is that true, Ms. Davis?
We are not quite sure of the manufacturer, but it's similar to that Pella vinyl window. So all the windows on the space are vinyl. Yeah. So we were going to try to match as best we could to the existing windows.
Yeah, I think we want to move away from vinyl, a window at a time if we can. What do you think, fellow commissioners?
I'm okay with that.
All right. Any other discussion? Any modifications we want to make other than what staff has recommended? And perhaps option 2 on the deck design?
The only item that I had was just talking through the railing. I just didn't know when we go to option 2, what was the railing condition that's being proposed?
If you go to the last page, not the very last page, but page 13, we did have options for the finishes and the railing that was suggested when we had our conceptual review.
Do we like railing option 2, fellow commissioners? Or 1, or what?
I think 1's probably a better option.
I think 2 is less deck-like, but that's me, and lighter. But
well, that's true too.
I like 2.
Then 2 it is.
all right, so we have to spell that out. Sean, Aaron, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did we talk about the light options at all? On page 11.
We have light. Oh, we have light options.
Yeah. On page 7, they show where they'll be also with the options. If you want to scroll up again, page 7. Seems like option 1 is pretty modern. I don't know if that's something we would normally.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one.
So maybe option 2.
Yes.
Would be better.
Where are the lights going? I can't see where they are.
Someone on the left-hand side. Replace.
Yeah, they'll go next to each door.
Is that too low for gooseneck?
I think so.
Want to move it up?
Like 1.
Option, obviously option 1's our first option, but option 3 is an option that matches the picture that is actually existing on 34 on the other unit that's not pictured in. Oh, so that was our third option, was just to match what was already there.
I would match what's already there.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other options to think about?
Was there any preference?
Oh, we have bollards. We have bollards.
Yep, we had 2 options for bollards. We had the more spherical option and then just a natural, like a landscape boulder. And that's just to protect that front fence area. Right now it's damaged from someone running into it. So that was just protection there. And then there'd be landscaping around that.
Is that at the corner at the corner of the alley and street?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the other bollard, the post is for where the existing dumpster enclosure is for the Jackson building. We were just going to install a bollard there so that it does not hit the cars that are parked in that back area.
If we're going with the black railing, we probably want to go with the black bollard, right?
Yep.
Do we care what our rock is at the corner?
I think it's round.
They're round. The existing bollards on the side of the building are the silver. Do we want to change the one at the back being the black? That option 1 is a picture of the side of the building at the gas meter.
Ooh.
I think you stay with what you have.
Okay.
There you go.
The only other thing I had then was at the back porch area, we had material choices. Someone had suggested last time maybe painting and not having the cedar, so we did provide options for finishes there as well, and that's on page 13.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit, Louis?
Think painting's more appropriate?
I think I would just leave it natural. What do the other commissioners think?
I think it'd probably look like less deck-like if it were painted, which is usually the condition we find with wooden porches, stoops, and other things in the neighborhood. But I've been outvoted on every issue so far, so it would not be surprise me if somebody disagreed with that.
I prefer it painted just because it looks like the painted porches that I don't like.
I also think that guidelines speak to avoiding having like an unpainted, just wooden deck viewable from the street. So it'd probably be more in line with the guidelines to paint it, if I'm recalling those correctly.
Let's go with paint. What do I know?
All right. Now, have we run out of options? Does anyone remember what we've just done?
I can try. All right, I'm gonna need some help though, but I'll try.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A motion to approve as submitted, given the following, I guess, clarifications of the options. Option 2 on the site plan, and that includes the smaller porches. I'm gonna say finishes are going to be option 3, which are going to be painted for the deck, as well as I should say maybe the decking and the side of the porch themselves. Option 2, which would include the railing, which will be the metal railing. Option 3 was going to be the lighting, which is going to be the sconces that are going to match the existing sconce on the building. As far as the bollards are going to be the silver or unfinished to match the existing. And then as far as I should say the larger rock bollard, that's the one I need a little bit of help on. I can't remember which one we selected.
Option 1, round.
Option 1, round. Hopefully I caught everything.
Windows off the approved list.
Windows off the approved list.
Anyone else have any amendments, additions? Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Gissam.
Yes. Good job.
Decker, yes. You are approved. Have a good day. You're welcome. Next.
Next is 23 West 2nd. This is, I see I wrote demolition variances up there. It's just demolition. This is for the IBEW building to retain the front portion and demolish the south portion of the building. The existing portion to remain will eventually be connected to new construction. The front portion of the building that remains will be rehabilitated, but that is not a part of this review. The project was reviewed previously. At last month's hearing, it was continued for further review. I've included here commissioner comments from the last meeting, and these mainly speak to how the applicant needs to speak to whatever their hardship is. Commissioners have noted that the gem is the front of the building, which is where the effort should be placed. Commissioners had questions as to why the canopy was being demolished. And overall, commissioners requested further clarification as to why the rear portion of the building needs to be demolished and why it can't be reviewed or reused. So commissioners would like the applicant to speak to that rationale. Staff agrees that the applicant should clearly express why they cannot reuse and retain the rear portion of the building. The applicant did submit some additional information to staff. Most recently, they submitted additional photographs of each room proposed for demolition, along with a photo map that shows where the photos are from. the applicant has indicated that rehabilitation and reuse of the remaining portion of the building is part of their overall project scope. Staff's recommendation is to approve this application with the conditions that the applicant commit to restoring the front of the building within 1 year, and that rehabilitation scope should return for further review. The applicant should also confirm definite plans for reuse of that original portion of the building, and that includes providing evidence of a commitment for funding, a time frame for the project initiation and completion, and an assessment of the effect that these plans will have on the character and integrity of the property. This information should be submitted to staff for review prior to issuance of a certificate. This comes directly from the standards for demolition, which say that the applicant shall submit definite plans for the reuse, the funding. As I stated, the commission here shall be guided in the decision by balancing the historic and architectural and cultural value of the structure and the character pertinent to the subject property against the applicant's proof of unusual and compelling circumstances or economic hardship. I have the standards for alteration here, which speak to removal or alteration of historic materials or features shall be avoided whenever possible, that we always want to repair rather than replace whenever possible, that contemporary design should not be discouraged, but that is when that doesn't destroy significant features. Whenever possible, new additions should be accomplished so that future removal will not impair the form of the building, and that the commission shall consider in addition to any pertinent factor, the architectural characteristic of structures in the district, the historical and architectural value and significance, the style, general design, arrangement, texture, material, and color of the architectural feature and its relation to the features of other properties in the immediate neighborhood. Lots of info. We have the applicant here as well as some speakers.
Well, let's get the applicant sworn first. Who's here?
Jessica with Kaufman.
Frank with Kaufman.
Anyone else? You both swear or affirm the testimony you'll give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Very well. I forgot our order. What's next? Speakers, or we want to hear from the applicant?
The applicant.
Very well. Do you have anything to add? I just want to clarify. I think we're really talking about unusual and compelling circumstances here and not substantial economic hardship as far as the code's concerned, because the applicant's not proved that it's broke or can't afford to do this. But I think that appears to be what your two letters are aimed at. So why don't you make your presentation and tell us what you've got, please.
Great. Thank you again to the commission for your time in hearing our demolition application. As you know, before the benefit of anybody new listening, as part of the project's new construction, we're proposing a partial demolition of the existing IBW building. The demolition plan would keep the front 84 plus feet of the building, removing the southern portion of the building. As you know, and again, for the benefit of those listening, the demolition submission is largely consistent with what was approved in May of 2017. It's important to mention that we actually feel this is an even better submission, as we're proposing to keep alley access west of the building, which is a change from the 2017 approved submission. And we think it's actually an enhancement of neighborhood accessibility. In our submission, you'll see a number of documents. Consistent with October's submission are photos of the building in its deteriorated state. But in response to commissioner comments last month, the photos in this month's application are limited only to the proposed demolished portion of the building and are annotated as much as possible. But it really should be noted that the majority of the building is actually in a similar dilapidated condition. After subcontract review, bringing the whole building up to standard would cost over $1.3 million, with specifically that portion to be demolished costing nearly $450,000. I know that was something that was requested at last meeting as well. So we've also submitted the footprint of the building portion to be demolished in several different views, which are included in our application submission. We've also submitted detailed photo images, plans, and materials for the connection between the existing and new building, as well as contextual guidance for our design. Frank will speak in a moment as well to the condition of the building, but as an update from last month's submission, we have also included broker letters from both CBRE and Blackgate. A broker from each team recently walked the building and each concluded that the building is not economically viable commercial space. Even if we could repair, bring it up to code, et cetera, the lack of windows, low ceilings, lack of street frontage for the proposed to be demolished makes this really unleasable space in their opinions. And those letters are included as well with our submission. As we all know, the task at hand is to really balance the partial demolition with the merits of the replacement project. And we are proposing a demolition of just a portion of the building, almost none of which was the original portion, and none of it is contributing structure. The replacement project is not only the new building, which received conceptual approval in August, but is also the repair of the existing contributing portion of the building. So today we're asking for approval of the partial demolition of the existing IBW building. It really serves no one for the building to sit vacant any longer, and we are really excited and anxious to start marketing this space in conjunction with the new project. So I'd actually like to turn it over to Frank Sasso from Kaufman for a little bit more detail on the existing building.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. And I'll be brief. I know we've heard this a lot before, but I do want to say thank you to the commissioners. It's been a long, continued process, but I think it's been a good process, frankly, in terms of both the new building design and the additional pieces and work we've done on the demo approval. I think as several of the commissioners have stated, I think the collaborative process gets us to a better place, and we remain committed to that. I just want to quickly touch on a couple things from last meeting. We heard loud and clear from several of the commissioners that we needed to provide more detail on economic hardship, on the condition of the building. I think we've included those photos. Jess mentioned the broker letters. I think those are very relevant. You know, we had both a retail expert and an office expert that said, hey, even if you spent the money to get this up to code, it's still not leasable space. And there's no tenant that's going to pay you enough in rent that's going to make it economically viable to spend the $450,000 to bring it up to code to begin with. And that's just for the portion that's being demoed. And that number includes remediating environmental conditions that exist, asbestos abatement, ADA accessibility issues, new HVAC system, and upgraded electrical systems, and a number of other things. So there really is a significant economic hardship with the building. Again, included the broker letters. We included very specific details on cost, as well as very specific photos of areas where there's damage and poor condition in the building. You know, the other side of it that we haven't spoken to as much previously, and I think it gets to the point that was raised earlier about compelling circumstances, is the benefit of the new project. And I think that needs to be weighed here as well. We're talking about a portion of the building that's not very visible from Second. Frankly, doesn't have very many windows on it, and doesn't really contribute to the structure balance with what's going to be built. And there's a significant economic impact to what's going to be built. And I want to touch on that just briefly. You know, specifically, we're estimating approximately $19 million in construction labor for the new building that'll result in about $500,000 in new income taxes for the city of Columbus, which obviously is important anytime, but it's particularly in the current budget situation we're in with COVID. It's going to create between 750 and 1,000 new construction jobs, and then 3 to 4 full-time jobs created just with our staff that'll be on site, in addition to if we have a retail or an office tenant in the original IBW building, there will be more job creations for that. Beyond that, over a 30-year period, this project is expected to generate over $27 million in total tax revenue, compared to $5.2 million in its current assessment in its current condition. So that's a $22 million net increase in tax revenue, supporting the city, Columbus Public Schools, essential city services, rec and parks, and the like. The other thing I want to mention is we are opting. There's an option for developers now to either build workforce housing or opt out and pay for an exemption. We are choosing to build it. There will be 32 workforce housing units in the new development, bringing in more housing options for people in a variety of income tiers for the neighborhood, which we think is really an important piece. as well, and we're very supportive of. I do want to specifically address Commissioner Moriarty's comment last month about a couple things I think that she raised. One, we have looked with our contractor about reusing the original windows. There are, I think, 2 or 3 on the portion that's proposed to be demolished, and move those over to where there's existing glass block. We think we can do that, and we're committed to doing that. If we can't for some reason, we will recreate windows, and obviously come back to the commission for approval of that, but we'll recreate windows that have a similar look. The other piece, and I think Jess touched on this briefly, is the car canopy was raised last month, and the reason for that demo being proposed is really has to do with moving our mechanicals. When the project was approved in 2017, they mostly sat right where the alley makes a T-junction. And we had a proposed or an approved plan, that actually cut off that alley access because a portion of that is owned by the IBW site. We've moved that mechanicals. We think it's better for the neighborhood. We think it's better for the area to keep that access all the way through. So we've moved that, and that really necessitates the need. We also think it kind of creates a little bit of an unsafe condition. We've struggled, frankly, of late with people sort of camping out there, and it's a difficult kind of dark corner of the project. So there's sort of an ongoing issue with that. We want to be able to open it up, properly light it, and then need to have access for the mechanicals. So just in closing, I want to say that I think we've really demonstrated that there's a very significant burden and really an economic hardship to trying to keep the back portion of the building. And frankly, there's a really significant economic benefit to the city and to the broader community of the new proposed project. And we know the commission has the job of balancing those things. And we appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight.
Thank you. I have some questions. I'm sure others do too, but I think it's speaker time now. Is that correct?
Yep, Bill Wood is first. You have 3 minutes, and I will.
Bill, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Bill, are you there? Turn your voice on. Do you swear?
I do.
Very well. You're on.
All right. Sarah, would you bring up the Sanborn map, please?
Yeah, Lewis can grab that for you. It's the first page of the submission, first or second page. I think it's the second page.
That's not mine.
It's coming up.
It says speakers materials. It's got a picture from the Herald and then a Sanborn map.
There you go.
There it is.
Okay, can you get it so people can see the date of it? All right, I have outlined in yellow the original, the Sanborn map from 1951 that shows the building completed and that the building existed as it is today before 1951. There's no question about it. I've brought it up a number of different times. Frank even called Ed Moore, who is the business manager at the IBEW, to check. So he knows that it's all the original building and that the IBEW added nothing to the building. Would you please go to the second submission that I have?
Is that the page from the Herald?
Yeah,
there you go.
For the page from the Herald. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the garage. That's where Myers Funeral Home garage was, which is the back end of the building. Now, if you go to the upper left-hand corner of that, please. So you can see the date of it, please. So further up.
It's February 1, 1940.
That's in 1940. So in 1940, that building existed as it is this very day. So for these people to be so for these people to knowingly, because I've shown all this before, knowingly say that it was an add-on to the building is not telling the truth. So they are now asking to demolish almost 50% of the original building, even though Frank last month said that they were going to keep 70% of the original building. Now they've got it so that the northern section, they're talking about a different tear down from the northern section to the southern section. I think it would be necessary to get you people, the Victorian Village Commissioners, back to see what exactly they're planning on doing with the building. It's just...
Bill, you have about 10 seconds.
For you, the Victorian Village Commission, to continually let these people tell you lies, that you should call them on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next speaker.
Lisa, you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Lisa Wood, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Proceed. Thank you.
I agree with Bill. I want to point out that we've lived next to this building more than 30 years. I went to high school with half of these guys, so I know them all. I've been inside and out that building for years. There were only 2 non-union families ever allowed to the annual fish fry, and that would be the Woods and the Reinhardts. And we went every year, and we went to the last one in 2016, and we went through the building completely, and it wasn't in that shape. It was in perfect shape. So since Kaufman took it over, has let it sit empty for 4 years. That's why it's deteriorated. That's on him. That's not on the brothers. They didn't receive this building like that. They let it go. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Is Colleen Renner here? I don't see. What?
She had
to work. Okay. So then we have Kathy.
Kathy Reinhardt, where are you?
I see her.
You're muted, Kathy. We can't unmute you, actually. You'll have to unmute by pressing the button.
Got it. Okay,
go.
then I'm gonna just defer to Ross.
Ross, you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir, Jack, I do.
Please proceed.
Okay, so I second Lisa Wood's enunciation. The place was in tip-top shape last time I was in there before the purchase. It is since then and has been deteriorated. And as a 3-time 100-year-old buyer and fixer-upper of 100-year-old properties, it's kind of insulting to hear that they can't repair what's there. That I want a can-do attitude about this. This is repairable. It's plaster. It's some glass. You know, I still own 14 properties that are over 100 years old, and I can still get things done. The house that I live in now, 2 doors from the union, the only water that I had when I moved in was what was running through the roof. So I don't want to hear the hardship and the inability about this. I know they have the ability to do this. And I know the deterioration is done over the time that it's been sitting. Otherwise, I believe it's part of the structure. Where do we draw the line? You know, we have proof it goes back to 1940. So are we setting a new precedent that at 80 years, it's not historical and it's not valuable? Because that's the timeline at least that we're looking at on this. So we're opposed to the damage, the structural damage, and the disintegrity that this is going to leave us by the tearing off of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Nope. If Kathy is good with Ross's statement, then that was everybody I had.
Oh, yes, I'm happy with Ross's statement.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I just want to sort of set the table because we tend to drift in this discussion quite a bit. One, I don't think there's any question that this is a contributing structure. If it were the part that's to be demolished is contributing, I don't think that there was, if there were a question, if it weren't contributing, we wouldn't be talking about the demolition section and particularly the exceptions to it. I think we need to focus on 311616, which says unusual and compelling circumstances, which can include cost. And I don't think the issue is that the property has no historical or architectural significance. I think the real argument the developer is making is the property cannot be reasonably maintained in a manner consistent with the pertinent architectural standards and guidelines, and no reasonable means of saving the property exists, because even if at some expense you maintained or rehab this property, which I'm sure Kaufman could afford to do, what would you then have? What would you do with it? Could you rent it? Could you lease it? What changes would you have to make in order to have a marketable property? Frank, I'm sorry, what happened to the other applicants? Jessica, are we talking the same language here? Is that what we need to focus on?
Well, I'm not sure, Jack. I might have lost you there a little bit, but I think, you know, I think where our argument is there's both an economic hardship and a non-viable space to lease in this back portion, and also a compelling, you know, extenuating circumstance with the new project. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Right. The general section tells us we're supposed to balance the new and the old project, and we can consider cost, and should and will consider cost in determining whether there are unusual and compelling circumstances, because it would just be ridiculously expensive to try to end up with something that would have low lease value, right? Let's talk about that. I'm done. Go ahead, Jeff.
We've been going on and on this. It is so clear to me that this is so analogous to the Pizzuti project. We have, and love the Woods, love the Reinhardts. We have two adjacent properties, and this happened in Victorian Gate with the Pizzuti project. All of those condominiums along that line, they were didn't want the alley to go away, and their property values were going to plummet. That didn't happen. It turned around that area. They saved the jewel of the building, which is on the park. I mean, and they could have rehabbed the back. Basically, no, it wouldn't be a valuable property. What they wanted to focus on is what they were bringing to the neighborhood. So I think we need to look at that. And I think that we've gone back and forth, and I don't think it's an argument. I don't think it's black and white. It's a special situation, and it had momentum, but we talk about the other sides of the property and no one says anything. So I think we need to think about that. And I don't want to disrespect the Woods or the Reinhardts, but that is sort of the situation from my perspective.
And Jeff, I just want to appreciate your comment on that. And I want to just echo that and say that, you know, early on, you guys remember we had proposed a demo here of the entire building. We heard loud and clear that wasn't appropriate, not acceptable, and not what the neighborhood wanted. So we're committed to preserving it. And not only that, but also the house next to it. And I think, you know, all of us probably within a year of Grandview Mercantile getting demoed had probably set foot in that space, and it looked just fine. And that entire building is gone, never to return. Here we're talking about preserving the contributing portion of the structure that we all walk by and see. So I think it is a very unique situation.
I think, Jeff, we are getting closer to the commercial traveler situation. But what gets us closer is the letters from CBRE and Blackgate. That's the sort of evidence that Pizzuti presented to show us that there was no viable commercial use for the shank of the T of the commercial travelers building. And so maybe we ought to talk about these letters and what they contribute to us. I think the CBRE letter is interesting because it really is talking about two different kettles of fish. And the first is the rear end of the main building. And the second is the garage. And those two buildings do have different characteristics. The garage is a large open space that could be used for a number of things. I don't know if it's viable, but it could be. And the rear of the building is a rabbit warren of small rooms. So, what do we think? Is it compelling and unusual circumstances? Have we reached the point of having enough evidence that this cannot viably be used as an ongoing venture?
I think we're way past that point. I understand the historical value of the building. I understand how it operated at one time, but that is not now. And it is so analogous to the Pizzuti project. They're saving the front of the building. They're saving the important part. They're saving the part towards the street. And the rest of that building, I've done with state-owned buildings all across the state, that the back ends of these buildings, even though they might have been part of and served a purpose, to bring them up to code and to make them a leasable, valuable, actual workspace, it's almost next to impossible. There's so much, no one would want to rent that space. No one would want to live in that space.
What is the difference between the front and the back of the building, Jessica or Frank? I mean, your costs for renovating them look about the same per square foot. What's the?
Well, I think there would be a pretty compelling argument of economic hardship on the front of the building as well, and we included those numbers. Obviously, we're not requesting that be demoed. I would say there's a couple key differences. The biggest is windows. There's no natural light. There are some weird elevation changes as you walk to the back of the building. There's like 4 or 5 steps to get down into the banquet addition and the very back from the original structure. The ceiling heights, and there's opportunities to do a double height or a mezzanine kind of ceiling in the existing building because it's 2 stories tall. There obviously isn't that opportunity in the back portion. And the back portion has no accessibility from any street frontage. So from a commercial standpoint, that's a huge difference. You've got 2nd Avenue frontage, great foot traffic with people coming up and down there. It works for an office. It could work for a retail or restaurant potentially. The back of the building, there's no visibility. There's no traffic. There's no light. I mean, it's a long list.
I suspected the same, but I thought that needed to be articulated.
So
I appreciate the question.
So not to interrupt you, but we have several people that have a hard stop at 6, and it's like the coach running out the clock. What are we going to do here, folks?
We're
playing this game over and over and over again.
Do we want to vote on this today? Anyone else have a thought?
I have a thought. The only thing that, as far as precedent goes, that bothers me about this is that for any other applicant, we would sort of require a master plan for the property. And this provides a master plan for the entire property except for the chunk of that building that's remaining. And that's just a huge question mark. And so that's the sort of thing that makes me very hesitant to move forward.
Mr. Conyers?
Completely understand that. I mean, I would echo both the commissioner's comments in terms of the master plan. I think that what we talked about before is all of those details would be provided as part of that final kind of condition. And I think it's more of a timing condition as of right now, is when are all of those other items that we talked about early during some of the conceptual reviews, when are those things going to be available? That's for the overall project, that's for the restoration, et cetera. I was not on the commission, and I know Jeff references the facility project, a lot of merit. So I really have to kind of lean on that, that aspect of applying that same logic to this project, which I think is pretty consistent with maybe my stance a few years ago. So I think that's what I have to say.
Jessica and Frank, I mean, it seems to me we could do one of two things. We could approve. Aaron, did I leave you out? Yes, I did.
You did. Thanks, Jack. I wanted to say, I think to Liesel's point, that staff recommendations have included some assurances that rehabilitation to the back portion or to the front portion of the building would be happening within the first year. And then I wanted to speak to Frank's comments about that, the canopy. I understand that there is some sort of safety concerns with that being a darker corner. Personally, I'd still like to see it explored as an option to be retained. I don't know if there's a way to maybe fence in the portion beyond that so that it's not as accessible, but it just seems to me to be a feature that would be not too difficult to maintain and retain for a future building use. But
I just want to comment quickly on Lissel and Sean's point, and Aaron's, I guess, too, is that, we really, it's an iterative process. We want to be able to finish DDs, and so we could come in with location of dryer vents, location of mechanicals, start to get into materiality. We've got, several more opportunities to kind of present, but we would appreciate a vote on the demo so that we have the confidence to take that next step in the drawing. As the architects on the call know, it's a very expensive next step. And we want to be able to do that. And I just quickly to Lissel's specific question. I mean, right now the plan is just to restore the existing structure that we're keeping. So we don't have any intent to do anything differently than that. And obviously if we had a tenant that was asking for certain things, we would be back before this commission to say, here's the opportunity, here's the presentation on that. At this point, it's just to repair it, essentially, put a new roof on, new HVAC, paint, clean, fix the water damage, all the stuff we've talked about. That is our plan for the existing building. So just to clarify that.
I likewise am uncomfortable voting now. I mean, we could do one of two things. You've already got a sense of where most of the commissioners are leaning here. But we're really getting ahead of ourselves since we know neither what the final project's going to be that we're supposed to balance this against under the code, although we know something about it. And we don't have definite plans to fix the rest of the building. We could make our demolition approval contingent on receiving those things.
We'd
which
appreciate
means
that.
It would be effective in the future once we had those things. Would that work?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Which is?
To approve demolition of the portion of the building by the application contingent on the restoration of the remaining portion of the building. That, did we have a time frame for that?
Could we simply make the approval of the demolition contingent on receipt of plans, satisfactory plans for the renovation of the front of the building? So they couldn't tear it down yet. This is sort of a future demolition approval to get it off our plate if that's what we're going to do, so we can move on to whatever we're going to talk about next.
I think that sounds sufficient. So
Okay, so we,
on plans for the demolition approval is contingent on plans for the restoration of the remainder of the building.
And approval of the main project also, right?
That as well, yes.
And the plans for the renovation of the remaining structure have to be satisfactory to the commission, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have one more question before we go any further, and that is, we have lots and lots of drawings here, and some of them, they're not necessarily can all be interpreted consistently depending on where you measure from. Are we agreed that the line of demolition begins about where the pretty much where the peaked roof on the main building ends? Is that correct,
Yes.
Jessica? Is
Yes,
that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And we are going to be getting the building scanned. So when we do submit those plans for the restoration of the remaining portion, we'll make sure we include those as well.
I want to just make it crystal clear what we're doing. Can we add that to your motion, Liesl?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
second.
Further discussion? Let's vote. Let's vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Hisson,
Yeah.
Decker, no. Motion passes. I want to make it clear that the commission, in so moving, has found that unusual and compelling circumstances exist pursuant to 3116.16, and that those justify the issuance of a demolition permit. Is that the sense of the commission?
Yes.
Yep.
Very well.
Yes. Thank you.
That concludes that for the Kaufman project. Are you done? Are we okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very well.
All right, commissioners, it is 6 o'clock. I know a couple people may have to leave, but do we have commissioners staying? Will we have a quorum? What is the room?
I'm here. Aaron, are you still here?
I can stay.
Liesl?
I can stay till 6:30.
Jeff?
I'm out at 6.
All right. Sean?
I have a hard stop at 6 as well. So thank you.
It is now 6:02. So we'll proceed with the three of us.
Thanks, everyone. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Let me so we have Sean and Jeffrey. Just those two. Yep. Okay.
So we now have present Commissioners Kodheimer, Moriarty, and Decker. the other two commissioners having had to leave.
Gotcha. Okay, moving on. This is a conceptual review that was continued from last month. This is a new construction project to construct a 2-story 4-car garage or carriage house, excuse me, on a rear alley. The proposed carriage house would be significantly taller than the surrounding 1-story garages. Staff's recommendation is to consider decreasing the overall height of the carriage house. Also, staff would recommend simplifying the cladding materials. And it does seem to me that the roof line is meant to reflect the 2 primary structures, but staff would recommend simplifying the roof line. This is based on standard for new construction. They state that while new structures should look new, they should also be compatible with the old height as viewed from the street should be compatible with adjacent structures. Choice of material, this is item H, says that simplicity is preferred, and item I states that generally a simple roof shape is appropriate. Again, just conceptual.
And I'm sorry, which address are we on?
This is 139 to 141
Got it.
2nd Avenue. It's the alley.
All right, is the applicant with us?
Yes.
I'm here. This is Reza Riazi.
Reza, your picture hasn't been here. There you are. Reza, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to say?
Well, I guess I'm exploring this project. I guess there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about primarily. Really, the first topic is 2-car garage doors. I'm surrounded on 4 sides by 2-car garage doors, some of them older, some of them newer. But if I don't do 2-car garage doors, I'm going to lose at least 1 parking space. So that has a bearing on whether I move forward with this or not. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about was whether a more contemporary design would be acceptable, including maybe a flat roof. So there was a question that had been asked about the height of the new building versus this proposal. The new building is approximately 34 feet tall. This would be, as proposed, 28 feet tall. But yeah, those are the questions that I wanted to talk about. The contemporary design, well, 2-car garage doors, and the roof. Get your thoughts on that.
What say, fellow commissioners?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following you. Which is the new? This is the new building here, and it's going to be 20 feet tall. Is that what you said?
The new building is the carriage house that I'm proposing. The existing building, which is the existing house, one portion of it is older and portion of it is newer. The height of the question had been asked, what's the height of the existing house? And what I said was that the height of the existing house is 33 feet, approximately. And the carriage house recognized that it's rather tall, and the attempt was to try to match the roof line of the house, but something so yeah, that's basically it.
I understand. There's a newer portion of the primary.
Correct.
Liesl?
I would say I don't wholeheartedly oppose this at all. I think there's a lot of details and like aspects of the massing that just needs some massaging or editing. But it's hard to see. I'd love to see an elevation from Denison. That would be helpful, since that's where you're going to see the house massing wise. in relation to the house, the other structures on the other side of the alley. But generally, I think we could work with this, and it could work.
I have a completely different viewpoint, Raisa.
Yeah.
This, if you scan up to the first picture, well, I guess it's not, but somewhere in here, you have a photograph of the rear down below you've got a photograph of the rear of these houses that are the main structures. It's very traditional in appearance. What we're looking for is, and what the guidelines say, is that you need to have some degree of compatibility between your rear building and your main building. And we went through that earlier today with a different applicant. Well, we didn't go through it today, but it was we'd gone through it with a project we looked at earlier today. And I think you need to, this looks like it's from a completely different time, place, space dimension, and neighborhood than the building that sits in front of it. Number two, these are very visible because Denison is a heavily trafficked street, and you're right at the corner here of Denison and 2nd.
Sure.
And so these are going to be very visible. And if the lack of compatibility, if any, is going to be very visible from 2nd Avenue. Third, across from the alley from your proposed carriage house is this god-awful row of one-story garages with single doors that goes on forever and ever, which I guess got grandfather, which by the way has all kinds of different roofing on it. And I don't blame you for any of that, Raisa, and I don't blame the current owners because this was apparently grandfathered. But there it is. That sort of brings down the massing in the alley so that you don't want necessarily something that is all that much bigger than what you have. I think, the idea of a flat roof might be something to think about because that would take some of your height down.
Right. That's really the only way I can do that. Well, not the only way.
And I think you really, really need to look at simplifying your design.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to leave you a lot of yard.
Right.
I walk by there all the time with Sam, my partner here, who's waiting to go walk. But my dog. But so I'm really well familiar with this area, and yeah, that's my feedback. I think you need to go back to the drawing board and look at a much simpler way of doing this with windows, if any, that are from the same vocabulary as your main structure.
Okay.
It doesn't have to look like it's the same building. It can be an after added one, but at least it's got to speak some of the same languages, in my view.
I just wanted to echo that I agree with your comments that it does need to relate back to the main house structure. And I think that comes in sort of the revisiting of the massing and the detailing. But conceptually, the idea of putting a carriage house of generally this scale and 4-car garage, I think is doable with a decent amount of work.
Okay.
Yeah, we ordinarily you don't have any turning radius problems here. This is a huge.
Yeah, it's like a 20-foot wide alley.
And there's a giant driveway on the other side of it. So you've got all kinds of room. And that's usually the reason we allow double doors.
Honestly, I think it would improve it because it's kind of a gaping hole in that area. And I think
You mean having a carriage house there?
having a carriage house there, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are saying you shouldn't pursue a carriage house, but you need to look at a different way of doing it.
I guess.
Aaron, have I cut you out?
No, I would echo. I think that, you have an interesting primary structure with a little bit of a difference in architectural style between the two sides, and that maybe you could just choose one of those. You have some things to work with, but I think introducing a third style like you have proposed here is maybe too much for the parcel.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, I think a carriage house would look nice here.
Just one question. So I guess the big one is this issue of two-car garage door. I think I'm hearing that you're saying it's possible to do it if we do it right. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
and we've obviously shied away from the two-car garage door, and I'm assuming you're dealing with some constraints.
Yeah.
That don't use separate doors. I think
I don't know that it's off the table. I think it depends on what the design is. Don't you,
Yeah.
Lisa?
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah.
We've certainly allowed them before, but it had to be illustrated as a very strong argument for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we've done it yet because somebody complained they couldn't cram enough cars in, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe somebody
No,
has a
it's
better
true.
memory. There's only 3 of us here. By the time this shows up, we may have 2 additional seats filled. So the accuracy of feedback you can get from us is pretty limited right now, but we're doing the best we can. All right.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thank you. All right. What's next, Sarah? Have a good day, Raisa.
You too, Jack. Bye.
3 West Russell, request for action. This is the start of new applications. This is a 25-foot by 8-foot permanent mural on the north side of the Joseph Garage. The mural is heat-applied vinyl and digitally printed aluminum composite material, M panels. The entirety of the mural would be vinyl except for the part on the vents, the ACM panels. Those would be attached to the locking hardware. The parking garage itself was constructed circa 2014. Staff does not consider it to be a contributing resource. The building, though, is located within the boundaries of the Short North Design Guidelines. Heat-applied vinyl has been used successfully elsewhere in the Short North, and the mural will not cover or destroy any distinguishing characteristics. So staff would recommend approving the application with the conditions that the applicant just clarifies how these ACM panels will be attached, and that the applicant does submit a long-term maintenance plan to staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of the certificate. This comes from the Short North Design Guidelines that state that the mural should be appropriate for use in an outdoor setting and of a long-lasting variety. And Caitlin is here.
Caitlin, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes, I do.
This is a temporary installation.
Well, vinyl is obviously more temporary than paint, but they want to continue it. So if there's ever any damage to it, they would ensure that it is on there for at least 3 to 5 years.
So you want this? We should treat this as basically permanent.
Yes, I would.
All right. Discussion. And you're asking for a certificate?
Yes.
Very well. Discussion.
I like it. I've actually walked past this building before and wondered why there wasn't art on this wall. So I'm happy to see something proposed here. And I think it's within the Short North Art District, and that plan supports art in the district. So I don't see a problem.
Liesl?
It looks good to me.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted pending staff approval of an installation plan and maintenance plan.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion. Moriarty,
Yes.
Codeheimer,
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is done.
Thank
Have a good day, Caitlin. Bye-bye. Next.
All right. Moving right on to 989 to 996 North High Street. This is another sign, but this one is proposed to be temporary. It would be a non-illuminated corrugated plastic panel sign to be 104 inches by 34 inches. That's a square footage of 24.5 feet. The applicant would like the sign to be installed for a period of up to 1 year. Staff's recommendation would be 6 months and then to return if it needs to. This sign does include a phone number and web address, which don't meet the Short North design guidelines. If the applicant wants to include that information, staff would maybe suggest considering a window sign rather than a wall sign. But my recommendation is to approve the application with the conditions that the sign is not installed for longer than 6 months and that if it's installed on the wall, it should be installed in the mortar.
Have we an applicant?
I think so.
Yes, this is Paul Lida with Sign Effects.
Mr. Lida, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Very well. Anything to add?
Nope. I agree with staff's recommendation, and if the phone number or website is a problem, I could certainly discuss that with my client. The website is really small on the left side, so it really doesn't add much value anyway from a signage perspective. So we could. I'm sure my client would easily agree to having that removed and just leaving the phone number, if that would be acceptable.
My recollection is for some of these temporary signages trying to lease buildings that we have allowed phone numbers.
Yeah, that's our standard practice.
I think the content is fine for a temporary sign. The one thing that we have generally recommended is that it sort of fit within the articulations, especially even if we say 6 months, the reality is it's going to be up there longer, most likely. So you have windows and columns and things and sort of seem arbitrarily sized. So I think it needs to be sized maybe to fit within that architectural feature and not overlap with the windows.
So you're suggesting it between the two bands of light colored material there?
That and width-wise, I think it needs to either fit the length of a window bay or it needs to fit within that column.
Okay. I think that's easily doable. We could make it a little less tall and then stretch and then move it to the right so it's actually over top of the double door there, and put it over top of the
flower child window.
Yeah, I think it needs to respond to the building better, assuming it's going to be up there for a while.
Does that work for you, Liesl, to move it over the flower child window and narrow it?
Yeah, and make it the same width as the
flower child window.
That might make it larger than the generally considered appropriate square footage if we extend the length of it, or rather the width of it. Is that okay in this case?
It's going to be less tall.
Yeah.
I think it just needs to not look as arbitrarily placed. So if it needs to be slightly bigger, that's fine.
If it's off, somebody's going to have to get up there with a ruler to see it.
Right.
Aaron.
I echo those comments.
Very well. Have we a motion?
Motion to approve with the dimensions and placement to respond to the building, preferably above the flower child sign. Yes.
As you've described earlier, correct?
Yes.
And do we want to get rid of the web address?
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me. I think we want to limit it to 6 months, though. Yes.
Right.
Let's do that.
Sure, you don't want to get rid of the web address? We ought to follow our guidelines when it doesn't make a difference. Nobody can see this.
Yeah, we can, it doesn't seem like a very key web address.
Right.
Actually, that would help with the height of the sign, to be honest.
Yeah, let's cross that off and keep it a little simpler. It's hard to read anyway.
Very well, Aaron. Do you second? Very well. Further discussion. Moriarty.
Yes.
Bedheimer.
Yes.
Decker. Yes. There you go. You've got a temporary sign for 6 months. Good luck.
Great. Thank you very much.
This is, you're bringing this building back from the dead, or at least your client is. That's good to see.
Yep, they're trying to find somebody that will do that. And just FYI, all the graffiti that's on that building that's painted on the panels, my client is actually working on a plan to remove all those panels and make an art display downtown Columbus with using those.
Cool. That's neat.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one. Next.
Next, we have 112 Price Avenue. This is a request for action for landscaping. The building is a circa 1978 residence on the north side of Price. The applicant would like to build a terraced Indiana limestone retaining wall, remove the concrete sidewalk, and replace that with thermal blue stone steppers. Add the same blue stone between the public sidewalk and the garden, and between the sidewalk and the street and the right-of-way. Plant some things, including a Japanese maple, and then place some Indiana limestone pieces beneath the maple per the drawings, and place some boulders in front of the gas meters. Staff's recommendations for this is to approve the application as submitted, but would encourage considering removing the stones from the right-of-way portion. And the proposed plantings do seem to be appropriately sized for the space. These come from standards for site improvement, which speak to compatibility with the surrounding area, and that do encourage mechanical systems to be screened. The applicant is here.
All right. Applicant, speak up, please. Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Coble?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm this testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
Anything to add from what staff has said?
The only reason why they wanted to put something, the flagstone in the right of way is because the neighbor has it. They're just going to continue that.
Explain to me this issue with the right of way. You mean the sidewalk or what?
In between the sidewalk and the street?
Oh, on the easement?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
The neighbor to the east has that.
I got it. It's in your site plan. Very well, Lisa.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Finish, please.
The curb is not completed. It's broken apart. I don't know if they did that when they replaced the gas line. So that would probably have to be repaired. Yeah, right there.
Oh.
I'm not sure if the city's going to do that or not. So.
I think you could probably put in 311, but it'll probably never get done.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll only slow things down. Lisa, what do you think of this?
I think it's appropriate given this strip of properties. I think that's part of the whimsy of this row of townhomes. I think I'm totally okay with putting the stones in the right of way, but again, with the curb and disrepair, I think you're going to have trouble installing them properly. So I would maybe just leave it. Okay. And then if
call 911 every day.
I think I would only install if the curb gets repaired. So I think we could like approve it. Like they could do this in the future if the curb gets repaired. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Aaron?
Yep, I agree. I don't see any issues.
Have we a motion?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve as submitted with the work in the right of way only being completed if the curb is repaired in order to allow for proper installation of the stones.
Have we a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Moriarty?
Yeah.
Codimer?
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is done. Congratulations, Mr. Kubel. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Commissioners, we have 2 more items. Do you think we can power through those?
Let's go. Unless somebody wants to quit.
Nope, let's go.
Let's keep going.
Great. This is 1087 Denison. It's landscaping. The applicant would like to put a fence around the parking lot that is bound by Riga Alley, 3rd Avenue and Hunter. The fence would be 6-foot high black aluminum, or they've considered black steel. Staff's analysis and commissioners at the business meeting suggested a lower fence. Staff would recommend a 4-foot fence. Also, staff would recommend that the applicant consider landscaping to visually screen or complement the fence. The applicant submitted photos that show fencing with similar height and design nearby. Staff would recommend approving the application with the conditions that the height of the fence is reduced to 4 feet and that a landscaping plan is submitted to staff for review and coordination with the commission. That landscaping plan comes from 3312.21, which states that parking setback is perimeter landscaping. Landscaping in the parking setback shall be required to buffer automobile pedestrian area and uses, to provide headlight screening, to provide adequate visibility and safety, and to avoid the illegal use of said parking area. Landscaping in the perimeter shall be required to visually buffer residentially zoned property from parking lots. I know that the applicant stated they're looking for a 6-foot fence to help for break-ins that have been happening there, but it's our opinion, rather my opinion, that a 4-foot fence would still do quite a bit to prevent people from breaking in. The applicant is here, and they can speak further to that.
Who is here from the applicant?
Hi.
Hello, who is this?
Hi, I'm Callie Opie DeVries.
Very well. Mr. Breeze, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can't, there you go. Now you're sworn. What have you to add?
So we've had several break-ins as well as a car stolen. And so our CEO feels that in the best interest of the safety of our employees, that a 6-foot fence would be the most beneficial. The only reason we're considering the fence is due to the amount of break-ins. And our employees have voiced that they don't feel safe walking through the parking lot. We have tried to take other precautions, increasing security as well as contacting Columbus police to see if they could maybe do more rounds. But those are really only temporary solutions, which is why we are proposing the fence.
Would 5 feet do it for you?
I could talk to our CEO and see if she would consider that.
I'm going to side with staff and say that it should be 4 feet. My opinion is that it's a perception when you walk past a place from the sidewalk that anything over 4 feet is super intimidating to the neighbors and uncomfortable. I guess one aspect is you have to think about someone is in trouble within the fence. They might want to get out. So I think 4 feet is going to be a lot safer just in general, while it may also help to deter people from walking through unwanted.
What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I agree. I think that only a 4-foot fence would be appropriate. I think some of the examples in the neighborhood are also 4 feet that you're showing here. So I don't know. Do we care which material it is, Liesl?
What were that options? Steel or aluminum? I think either one is fine.
Technically, the standards speak to wrought iron, stone, or wood. So if you choose one or the other, just specifying why it's okay.
I think you'd probably want to go with wrought iron or steel,
think
especially if you're looking for security.
If it's aluminum, I would want to see the details of the fence because it's going to be less. Aluminum can tend to be bulkier.
I haven't seen an aluminum fence in the neighborhood yet that didn't look cheap.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If it's aluminum, it needs to come back.
Do we want to make an approval for 4 feet? And if, I don't want to see concertina wire at the top of this or something, but
So the only issue with the 4 foot is that our CEO already has stated that she won't do the 4 foot. At that point, she just wouldn't put the fence in. So if 5 feet would be considered, that would be amazing.
I don't want to do 5 feet. I just don't think it's appropriate. I don't understand why 4 feet is a deal breaker. That's what
she just feels like it is still easily jumpable, especially with cars surrounding it. You wouldn't really see a person jump over it. I feel like
I think 4 feet is very difficult to jump, but I'm old.
And I think, again, I think the security of the person within the lot is an issue too, that you may want to be able to get out.
Well, we also have a security station set up in the parking lot as well.
That's what I'm saying. So you have that, so 4 feet should be okay.
Okay, here's what I suggest that we do. Because I think we're going to end up with a situation that's either unsatisfactory to the applicant or unsatisfactory to a majority of the commissioners, which is to continue this. Right now, we're in flux. There are only 3 of us here. We're eventually going to have 7 members, and you may move forward on the agenda to where there are at least 5 surviving people. And maybe your luck will be better with the others than they are now, or maybe not. Maybe Liesl and Aaron are right, but you want to do that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Do we have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moriarty?
Yes.
Todheimer?
Yes.
Decker, yes, you're continued. Very well. You can report to your CEO that there was very little support with this group for a 4-foot fence and maybe
6-foot fence.
For a 6-foot fence, and maybe you can make some progress on that end too. Very well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Very well. Let's do our last one.
This is at 316 West 3rd. It's a request for action for exterior building alterations with a little bit of landscaping. The applicant would like to modify a 6-foot by 10-foot landing. They want to remove an existing shrub and construct a 12-foot by 22-foot wood deck per city drawings. Victorian Village does not generally find decks to be considered appropriate. And while the applicant and the commissioners indicated that this dwelling used to have a deck, the proposed deck is larger than any previous deck. And we have received some photos of the original deck that I put in here just for reference. The applicant clarified that the roof would not be extended over the new deck space and stated that the existing landing is in poor condition. Staff's recommendation would be to repair the existing porch landing rather than build a new deck. This comes from standards for alteration that state that deteriorated features shall be repaired rather than replaced if possible. Also put in the Victorian Village guidelines. Portraits is the guideline we have. We don't have a specific deck guideline, but it states that it's appropriate to replace. If you add new sections that duplicate, that's speaking mostly to columns. So if there's damaged columns, what's considered not appropriate is treated unpainted lumber and wood decks that can be seen from the street. And the applicant is here.
All right, who is our applicant? You need to turn your audio on and speak. Ms. Nunley?
Hi. Yeah, that's me.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I so swear.
Are you the owner?
Yes.
These photos that I submitted the old ones from the early and mid 80s are mine because that used to be my house.
Okay, I have not seen those photos, but I would like to.
They're part of the application, and I can run you my drop in your mailbox my collection of faded photos from my rehab, so you can see what's underneath your walls.
They're the
But
last
I
couple.
was gonna recuse because I have very paternal feelings toward this house. It was my first rehab, but there are only 3 of us, so I won't. What have you to add?
So I feel like the 12 by 22 description is a little misleading because 22 is just the longest dimension from the edge of the existing porch to the far end of the proposed section. Really, the new section is 12 by 11, I think, or 12 by 10. Basically, we feel that that patio and those bushes make the space unusable. So if we want to continue using the word landing instead of deck, I would be okay with that. Basically, like you can trim those bushes down 12 times a year and they'll grow back bigger every time. And we just felt like we'd be able to better use our space if we could extend the landing around the backside of the house. Just like, well, like in your picture, but with a little bit more, basically. And the existing porch is stained red to kind of match the other red accents on the house. So once the appropriate amount of weathering was done, we would match stain so that we kept the red accent aesthetic with the rest of the house.
Okay, I just want to add some historical information, which you can see in these pictures. The first 2 of the old pictures show the dew line footers that supported the porch, which went no further back than the rear of that little addition there on the right. So it basically was the porch was flush with that and then wrapped around to, you can see where it is there.
Yeah, I can see.
All right. That was, and that was the, and that all, and actually everything behind the second story rear wall of the house was an addition. It was a porch that was on dew line footers that eventually got enclosed. And then we came along and put a foundation under it.
Appreciate the foundation.
You may notice that there is concrete block under that back part of the house. So that's sort of the history of what we have that may be educational to you and the rest of the commissioners. First off, does anybody have any issue with tearing this bush out?
No.
Nor do I. All right.
No,
So
I don't either.
I guess the next issue would be if we're going to restore a porch or a deck, what's it look like and how far back does it go, right?
So I'm looking at the drawings and they're a little hard to understand, at least with the one I don't understand the most is the first hand drawing.
To clarify, I know that when I was speaking to I believe the contractor, he was stating it's mostly just or maybe it was you, Megan, the point in the back where all of the stone patio is what would be the new deck. Is that right? Like,
yes, we don't want to take up more space because I don't want to lose grass. So basically we would just be replacing that stone area with a wood landing, we'll call it an extended landing, and getting rid of the bushes first and foremost.
So the porch / deck would be from the rear of the house or from the back wall of the original structure all the way out to where the patio is.
Yes.
All right. I don't think it's appropriate, but
Okay.
But I'm bigoted because I lived there for a number of years and it wasn't that way.
Are you planning to install a railing on this porch
Yes,
deck?
I was told that railings are required by the city of Columbus, and the current railing is not up to code because you can fall out of it. So we would extend the railing. It would be wood because the existing railing is wood, but it would have the vertical posts in it to keep, to make it safer, basically.
You'd have some kind of newels on it. Got it.
I'm gonna say go ahead and remove the shrub all you want, but I don't think there's any reasonable argument to allow you to extend the deck.
Well, you can't see it from the street, so.
I know you can't see any deck from the street, but we don't allow decks.
It doesn't, the way I understand the regulations is that they're discouraged, not disallowed.
They're disallowed.
Well, that is not what we were told. We were told they were discouraged. So, I mean, this is what we want to do with our property. And we're not trying to change things drastically. The existing porch would be replaced as is because it's really old.
I think you could put steps on the other side where the shrub is and then use the patio space better. But
I mean, I hate the patio, if I'm being totally honest. I don't like the rocks. They're not walkable. Grass grows in between them. Something wooden would be easier for us to maintain.
Of course, it's very easy to pull that patio up and put something else down there that's a more easily maintainable surface.
Like concrete?
Concrete, brick, pavers.
Concrete.
You could wrap that patio.
Probably not, but
You could make that patio a lot wider than any deck. You could take that patio north and south quite a lot bigger than its current footprint, actually, and end up with a lot more space than you have. Because I don't see how the grass near your air conditioning unit's doing you any good.
Well, we have dogs, so I'd like to keep the grass. As much grass as possible.
Yeah, I understand that sentiment for sure. I think you could probably get away with extending the rear porch to match what Jack has submitted as existing conditions when he was there, which means that it kind of wrapped the corner a little bit more.
Okay.
The issue with decks is that generally we would prefer to see a porch with a roof. So I don't know if that is something that you would consider, but
I mean, which is going to be a whole bigger project for sure.
Right.
That's just going to blow our budget out of the water.
Yeah, decks are constructed of unfinished lumber, and a porch would be something that's more of a finished piece.
So I think we would also recommend painting any sort of replacement wood, correct?
Our current porch is stained a very deep red. I mean, you can't tell because it's old, but if you see it in the sunlight, the load-bearing column is stained red, not painted.
And I think there's a distinction. So a deck is discouraged for a number of reasons, but generally it's not architecturally appropriate and it's unfinished, where a porch is a finished architectural piece that's enclosed. So, and is historically appropriate. So obviously what's there is more of a deck type construction that is probably older than the commission. So
actually, the commission approved that deck in 1980, but that was when it was desperate for anything to happen with that property, which was a good windstorm away from being a pile of sticks. But yeah, that's the history of it. I tend to agree that the best solution for this is to take it back to the condition prior to 1980, which is to restore the original porch or the original added on porches footprint, and then remove the bush and do what you wish with the rest of your yard.
Okay. I can talk to my husband about that and talk to the contractor and see. Basically, I feel like the bushes destruct the whole view of the yard for one thing.
The bushes, the bush you can go poison now. Well, we haven't approved it yet, so wait for that. But I think you can kiss the bush goodbye. You can start giving funeral services for it. But the question is what we do with the structure. And I think it would be a good idea for you to continue, for us to continue this. You discuss it with your husband and come back. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds
like a motion.
Motion.
To continue.
Motion to continue. Thank you.
Liesl?
Second.
Discussion, Moriarty.
Yes.
Is this just for the whole thing, or do we split up the bush? Sorry, I don't
think she needs approval to remove a shrub.
So the bush can just go.
Do you want to kill the bush now?
Yes.
Kill the bush.
Let's back up. A, just to be sure. Part A, permission to kill bush. Have we a motion?
Yeah. So
Liesl.
Second.
All right. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Kill the bush. All right. Now motion to continue rest of application. That's Moriarty, Kodheimer second, right?
Yes.
Okay, Moriarty, yes. Kodheimer, yes. Decker, yes. It's continued.
All right. See you guys
Very
next
well.
month.
I'll leave a CD in your mail. I'm around the corner at 1077 Neil. I'll leave you a CD of a bunch of pictures like this of what this place was in 1979 and 80.
Hey, Jack, people don't have ability to read CDs anymore.
You don't?
Yeah, actually.
Thumb drive?
Thumb drives. Thumb drives are good.
Thank you, Liesl, for bringing me back to reality. I do use CDs still, but I'm old. Very well. So are these pictures. When you said this porch was very old, it made me feel old. All right. Excellent. Enjoy your new home. Welcome to the neighborhood. And do we have any further business to conduct?
That is everything. We got through all items. It's awesome.
Thank you, commissioners, for sticking it out with me.
Yeah.
Have we a motion to adjourn?
Oh, go ahead. Who was that?
Yes. Yes.
Somebody moved, somebody seconded. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back in a week for our
It's a lot shorter.
to load up for next time.
It's actually a pretty short agenda, like knock on wood. I have to add what got continued, but it's
Hopefully Coppin won't be on it, and that'll take care of us.
Coppin's not on the agenda, and it's just 9 items right now, plus whatever's continued. So nice job.
So we might get done in 2 hours, even if I tell stories.
I mean, maybe you can tell extra stories, I guess.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, says Liesl. All right.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Very well. Thank you, everybody. Oh, X.